Imagine a giant table covered in a map, Africa. Now picture a bunch of guys in fancy suits, huddling around this map like they're about to play some high-stakes game. They're not dividing up pizza toppings. These guys are dividing up an entire continent. Welcome to the Scramble for Africa. This was a wild rush by European powers to claim their piece of Africa. They carved up the continent, drawing lines on maps with little regard for the people who actually lived there. Africa was, and still is, incredibly rich in natural resources. Gold, diamonds, rubber, you name it. And these European powers, they were hungry for it all. Why Africa? Why this sudden scramble? Europe was changing fast. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing, and they needed raw materials to fuel their factories. But it wasn't just about economics. There was fierce competition among European nations to prove who was the biggest empire. Countries like Britain, France, Belgium, and Germany jumped in, claiming territories and planting their flags. They saw it as their right, even their duty, to civilize these lands. But for Africans, the scramble was a brutal reality that would shape their future for generations. Picture Europe in the late 19th century. Factories are popping up everywhere. But factories need raw materials, and Africa had them in abundance. Africa was like a giant supermarket, and Europe was ready to shop till they dropped. They needed these resources to fuel their empires and keep industry booming. Fair trade? Not a chance. European powers took what they wanted when they wanted it. They saw Africa as untapped wealth, ripe for the picking. Sharing profits wasn't on the table. They wanted it all. It was the era of colonialism and might made right. The result? Exploitation on a massive scale. But it wasn't just about money. National pride was a huge motivator. Colonies were the ultimate status symbol. The more colonies you had, the more important you were on the world stage. And then there was the so-called civilizing mission. European powers claimed they were bringing education and Christianity to Africa. In reality, it was just an excuse to justify exploitation. They used this narrative to feel better about taking over an entire continent. Colonialism was about power, pride, and profit, and Africa paid the price. Economic greed, national pride, and self-righteousness, what could go wrong? The race for Africa was on, and things got messy fast. Imagine a bunch of kids in a candy store, except the candy is Africa. It was a mad dash to plant flags and claim territories. Fierce competition and shifting alliances defined the scramble for Africa. It's 1884, Berlin, Germany. Not Oktoberfest, but the Berlin Conference. Powerful men gathered to carve up Africa without inviting any Africans. Around the table sat representatives from Britain, France, Germany, Portugal, Belgium, Italy, and Spain. They argued over who got which part of Africa, drawing borders with no regard for the people living there. These borders were completely arbitrary. They ignored ethnic groups, cultural ties, and historical boundaries. It was like drawing straight lines across a living, breathing continent. Imagine waking up to find your village split in half by an invisible line. Your family on one side, your farmland on the other, and your sacred sites now under foreign control. Europeans imposed their own systems, often favoring certain groups and creating lasting divisions. Local languages and cultures were suppressed to make control easier. This disregard for African traditions created a legacy of instability and conflict. The diverse cultures of Africa were thrown into chaos. The effects of those arbitrary borders are still felt today. The scramble for Africa had immediate, devastating consequences. Armed soldiers marched into villages, claiming land for distant rulers. Traditional governance was replaced with European systems, often ignoring local customs. Africans were forced to grow cash crops for export, enriching Europeans and impoverishing locals. The continent was robbed of its resources and its people denied basic rights. Africans didn't just accept colonization, they resisted. From armed rebellions to civil disobedience, they fought back. The Ashanti Empire battled the British for their gold-rich land. The Maji Maji Rebellion united communities against German oppression. These acts of resistance showed Africans were not passive victims. They were a force to be reckoned with. Many paid the ultimate price for their freedom. Resistance wasn't always about fighting. Sometimes it meant adapting to survive and preserve culture. Learning the colonizers' language became a necessity. Some Africans became intermediaries, gaining power and influence. But adapting came at a cost. Traditional structures were disrupted and a new elite emerged. Navigating colonialism was a delicate balancing act. The scramble for Africa's legacy still shapes the continent. Arbitrary borders created divisions and conflicts that persist today. Colonial economic systems left many countries underdeveloped and dependent. The psychological impact, loss of identity and cultural pride, runs deep. The scars of imperialism are still visible. Africa's potential was stunted, but its resilience endures. We've covered the scramble for Africa, its motivations, consequences, and legacy. But this isn't just history, it's a conversation. How do you think this period still impacts us today? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments, like, subscribe, and let's keep this conversation going. Think the scramble for resources is over. Think again. Today, powerful nations and corporations still vie for control, just with fancier suits. The fight over oil, rare minerals, and water echoes the scramble for Africa. We see it in the Amazon, the South China Sea, and beyond. The methods have changed, but the dynamics of power and exploitation remain. Now, it's not just about physical resources. It's about data and technology. Tech giants are the new colonizers, carving up the digital world and extracting our data. This digital scramble happens without most people's consent. The digital divide and spread of misinformation further marginalize vulnerable communities. The battleground has shifted, but the fight for control continues. The scramble for Africa might be a chapter in the history books, but its echoes reverberate through the continent and the world today. The legacy of imperialism is not just a distant memory, it is a living reality, woven into the fabric of daily life for millions. From the bustling streets of modern cities to the quiet rural villages, the impact of colonial rule is still felt in ways both obvious and subtle. The past is never truly past. It lingers in the architecture, the languages spoken, the systems of government, and the very structure of society. It's like walking through a forest long after a fire. The trees are slowly growing back, but the scars of the blaze are still visible, a stark reminder of the destruction that once raged. The land may be healing, but the evidence of devastation remains etched into the earth. In the same way, African nations are rebuilding, striving for progress and renewal, yet the deep wounds left by imperialism are not easily erased. The trauma of exploitation, displacement, and cultural erasure continues to shape the present, influencing how communities recover and how they envision their future. The arbitrary borders drawn by European powers, like fences erected without regard for the natural landscape, continue to divide communities and fuel conflicts. These lines, often drawn with little understanding or respect for the people who lived there, split families, tribes, and entire cultures. Today, many of Africa's ongoing disputes and tensions can be traced back to these artificial boundaries. The legacy of these borders is not just political, it is deeply personal, affecting relationships, identities, and the sense of belonging for countless individuals. The economic systems put in place during the colonial era, designed to extract wealth and resources, left many African nations struggling to break free from the shackles of poverty and dependency. Colonizers built railways and ports, not to connect communities, but to move raw materials out of Africa and into European markets. Even after independence, many countries found themselves locked into global systems that favored the former colonial powers. The struggle to create self-sustaining economies, to add value to resources at home, and to ensure fair wages and opportunities for all remains a central challenge. It's like trying to run a marathon with a weight chained to your ankle. Every step is a struggle against the forces holding you back. The burden of debt, the legacy of unequal trade, and the lingering effects of underdevelopment make progress slow and difficult. Yet, despite these obstacles, African nations continue to push forward, driven by resilience, creativity, and hope for a better future. We see the legacy of imperialism in the ongoing struggles for self-determination, in the fight for economic justice, in the efforts to reclaim and preserve cultural heritage that was systematically suppressed. Across the continent, people are raising their voices, demanding recognition, respect, and the right to shape their own destinies. Artists, educators, and activists are working tirelessly to revive languages, traditions, and histories that were nearly lost. These acts of resistance and renewal are powerful reminders that the story of Africa is not only one of suffering, but also of strength and survival. It's a long and arduous journey, healing the wounds of the past, rebuilding societies shattered by exploitation, and forging a new path forward based on equality and mutual respect. But with every step, there is hope. The determination of communities to overcome adversity, to support one another, and to imagine a brighter future is a testament to the enduring spirit of Africa. The shadow of imperialism may be long, but it does not define the continent's destiny. Instead, it serves as a backdrop against which new stories of resilience, innovation, and unity are being written every day. But amidst the challenges, something extraordinary is happening. A resurgence of African pride that is sweeping across the continent. In the face of adversity, young Africans are standing tall, embracing their heritage, and boldly expressing their identities. This is not just a fleeting moment, but a powerful movement that is reshaping how Africa is seen, both from within and by the rest of the world. There is a determination to rewrite the narrative that has for too long been controlled by others. Across the continent, a new generation is rising, one that is educated, connected, and unafraid to challenge stereotypes. These young people are using their voices, their talents, and their platforms to tell their own stories, stories that reflect the true diversity and dynamism of Africa. This is a generation that refuses to be defined by the mistakes of the past or the limitations imposed by history. Instead, they are forging a new path, one that is rooted in hope, ambition, and a deep sense of responsibility to their communities and their continent. We see this transformation in the vibrant art and music scene, where creativity knows no bounds. African artists, musicians, and performers are gaining international recognition, blending traditional influences with modern styles to create something truly unique. The creative industries are bursting with innovation as young people use art, fashion, and music to express their dreams and aspirations. Their work is not only celebrated at home, but is also making waves on the global stage, challenging perceptions and inspiring others. Drawing inspiration from traditional roots while embracing global influences, these creators are redefining what it means to be African in the 21st century. We also see this spirit in the entrepreneurial drive that is sweeping through cities and villages alike. Young innovators are harnessing technology to solve local challenges, from developing new apps to improve education and healthcare, to inventing sustainable solutions for energy and agriculture. Their ingenuity is opening up new possibilities and creating opportunities for future generations. They are building businesses that empower communities, mentoring others, and fostering a culture of collaboration and support. It's about shifting the narrative from one of victimhood to one of agency, where Africans are the authors of their own destinies. The story is no longer one of exploitation, but a testament to resilience, creativity, and the power of unity. Through art, entrepreneurship, and innovation, young Africans are showing the world what is possible when people believe in themselves and each other. This is about recognizing the immense potential that lies within Africa. The talent, the resources, and the drive to succeed against all odds. From bustling cities to rural communities, the spirit of progress is alive and unstoppable. We see it in the graduates stepping into the world with hope, in the engineers building a sustainable future, and in the artists who dare to dream. Africa's story is being reclaimed, rewritten, and reimagined by its own people. The journey is far from over, but the momentum is undeniable. The drive to succeed against all odds is now the heartbeat of a continent on the rise. The Scramble for Africa stands as a powerful cautionary tale, echoing through history as a stark reminder of the dangers that arise when unchecked greed and ambition are allowed to dictate the fate of entire continents. It was a period marked by the ruthless carving up of Africa by European powers, who saw the land and its people as mere resources to be exploited for profit and power. The legacy of this era is not just found in the borders drawn on maps, but in the deep scars left on generations of people, cultures, and communities. The consequences of dehumanizing entire populations for economic gain were devastating. Families torn apart, traditions disrupted, and societies forced to adapt to foreign rule. Yet, even in the darkest moments, the human spirit proved resilient. The story of Africa is not only one of suffering, but also of courage, resistance, and hope. Across the continent, people rose up, refusing to accept injustice as their destiny. Their voices, though often silenced, carried the promise of a better tomorrow. Today, that unwavering belief in a brighter future lives on in the eyes of the youth, in the dreams of communities determined to shape their own destinies. It is a testament to the enduring power of hope and the unbreakable will to overcome adversity. As we reflect on these lessons, we are reminded that progress is possible, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Education, dialogue, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths are essential tools in our journey toward justice. By learning from the mistakes of the past, we can begin to chart a new course, one that values every voice and honors every story. The challenge before us is clear: to dismantle the persistent structures of inequality and oppression that continue to shape our world today. This work requires courage, empathy, and a commitment to justice that transcends borders and backgrounds. We must strive to build a future where collaboration and compassion are valued above competition and division. When we come together, sharing our strengths and perspectives, we create solutions that benefit everyone, not just a privileged few. Mutual respect must guide our interactions, fostering understanding and trust between individuals and communities. Only then can we begin to heal the wounds of the past and lay the foundation for a more inclusive society. Every individual deserves the opportunity to reach their full potential, regardless of where they come from or what they look like. By empowering one another, we unlock the collective potential of humanity. This is a call to action for each of us, to challenge injustice wherever we encounter it, to amplify the voices of those who have been marginalized, and to stand in solidarity with those fighting for their rights. We must use our platforms, our privilege, and our resources to advocate for a world that is more equitable and just. It means recognizing our shared humanity, celebrating our differences, and finding strength in our diversity. Together, we can create a future worthy of our children and grandchildren, a future built on justice, compassion, and hope. The future is not something that simply happens to us. It is something we actively create with every choice we make, every action we take, and every dream we dare to pursue.